virtual town hall in a series of 5. This will be for nonpartisan candidates running for Monongalia County Board of Education, and then partisan candidates running for County Commission and Monongalia County Surveyor. I'm going to switch to speaker view for just a minute. I do want to welcome you all.
Ethan, give us a delay for a second. We're still getting the stream up and running, okay? It seems like it's taking a second to populate, so I don't want you getting ahead of it.
I'm looking at it live, so we do have live viewers.
No,
Okay,
it's fine.
wonderful. All right.
So we're just giving a moment or two. We have to mute everybody. We're getting a lot of. Okay, we were getting a lot of feedback there. Again, my name is Ethan Moore. I'm the chairman of the Monongalia County Republican Executive Committee. Joining me on the call tonight in this virtual town hall are 2 moderators also with our committee. Kyle McAvoy, if Kyle will pop on and introduce himself.
Out there, and we appreciate you tuning in to learn more about our local candidates.
Thank you, Kyle. And also we have Paula Martinelli, who's also on our committee. Paula, if you'll pop on and introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Paula Martinelli, secretary of the committee, and I'm really glad to have you all here tonight.
Very good. Thank you, Paula. So we do have an audience tonight that's building on Facebook Live and YouTube Live. And so we'll let people assemble there. Tonight, again, we do have candidates with us that are nonpartisan candidates running for Monongalia County Board of Education. That's Micah Wiglinski, Ron Lytle, and Nancy Walker. We'll get to introductions for that in just a minute. We have Republican candidate, incumbent candidate, Commissioner Ed Hawkins, who's running for re-election to the Monongalia County Commission. And we also have incumbent Republican candidate Bob Andriotto, who is running for re-election to be our county surveyor. And so our format tonight, we're going to let all the panelists who are on with us tonight go through quickly and introduce themselves for just about 3 minutes each. We'll do that for everyone, regardless of office that they're seeking. And then we will go into specific questions. So we're going to ask questions first of Commissioner Hawkins, and then we'll go into questions of the candidates for Board of Education, and then we'll wrap up with questions for Mr. Andriotto. And so, make sure I'm not missing any of my notes. We've got an order, just a random draw order, so we don't miss anyone, basically. We're just kind of checking through that. Again, those of us who are just now joining on Facebook and YouTube, we've got an audience building there. This is the second of 5 town halls, virtual town halls that are being hosted by the Monongalia County Republican Executive Committee for a series of offices for a series of virtual town halls for candidates seeking office that all are part of Monongalia County. And so we're going to start with introductions. We'll first up, I'll unmute you and then you can do your introduction. In your introduction, please give us a little bit of background, where you're from, how long you've been with us in the county, your occupation, education, your experience, that type of thing. So without any delay, we're going to go to Commissioner Ed Hawkins, incumbent Republican running for Monongalia County Commission.
Good evening. I am a lifelong resident of this county. I grew up at Easton, a community that really doesn't exist anymore after the interstate went through, but it was a thriving community back in the day. I lived on a dairy farm, and I went to Easton grade school, and then I went to Cheat Lake Junior High and graduated from University High School in 1966. Trying to decide what to do, I went to WVU and took a degree in English literature. Still trying to decide what to do, I entered dental school and graduated from WVU School of Dentistry in 1974. I have a work experience of working, of course, on the dairy farm. I joined my dad's crew when I was about 9 years old. We worked weekends, and then I joined the main crew when I was 13. There were no child labor laws back in 1962, I assure you. So I worked for my father on construction full time while I was going to school, putting myself through school until the Friday before the Monday after I graduated from dental school and started at Morgantown Dental Group. I spent 40 good years at Morgantown Dental Group. Then I was fortunate enough to retire, and my election was 1 month after my retirement. So in my career, I have had 3 jobs, and this is my 3rd job. And I feel in some ways, although my accountant says that there is a therapist that's needed for me, I feel that this is destiny. I really believe in serving and wanting to continue to serve in our county. And that's me.
Very good. Thank you, Ed. We appreciate you joining us tonight. Next up will be Nancy Walker, incumbent seeking re-election to the Monongalia County Board of Education. Nancy, I've got you off mute, and you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Ethan. I'd like to thank the committee for sponsoring this for us this evening, since unfortunately due to COVID-19, we have a different way of trying to let people know who we are and what we've done. So I am Nancy Walker, and I've been a member of the Monongalia County Board of Education for 24 years. So I'm running for another term, and I always refer to myself now as the historical memory, because I remember when I did come in, we had various buildings around the county, and every student did not have the same educational opportunities that they have today. After our large construction project and our continual upgrades as we try to expand our offerings in the county. So I'm married to Craig Walker, and we have been married since 1976. I came to Monongalia County in 1974 from Harrison County. We are the happy parents of 3 wonderful children who also 2 of them have given us 3 wonderful grandchildren. So I started in the school system as a parent volunteer, as most parents do when they become involved. And I really found that I have a passion about public education. So that's kind of how I got here. In my day job, I perform echocardiograms and vascular ultrasound at the Mon Health Medical Center in their Heart and Vascular Center. So that is my job, which I actually made part-time so that I had time to spend devoted to other community interests, volunteerism, and the Monongalia County Board of Education. I appreciate this opportunity to have you all meet me again, and thanks a lot.
Very good. Thank you, Nancy. We appreciate you joining us tonight. Our next up will be Mr. Micah Wiglinski. Give me a minute to unmute you, Micah. Okay, Micah, you have the floor.
Okay, good evening, everyone. Thank you to the Monongalia County Republican Executive Committee for hosting this forum. And to everyone who's out there watching live, I hope you're doing well, enjoying the time you get to spend with your families. My name is Micah Wiglinski. I'm running for school board. I'm a former teacher. I was an elementary teacher, and then I went on to get my master's degree in library and information science. And then I worked as a school librarian. So I really enjoyed that job, and it was really difficult for me to leave that job. But once my wife and I decided to start a family, I became a stay-at-home dad. And although it was tough, I wouldn't trade that time for the world. And now that my children are older, my son's 11 and goes to Mountaineer Middle School, and my daughter is 9 and attends Cheat Lake Elementary School, I've had a little bit more time to get active in the community. So I'm currently the vice president for the Pantry Plus More, and that keeps me busy 7 days a week, helping fight childhood hunger in our county. And I just look to bring my experience as a teacher and a parent to the school board. I'm a product of public education. My wife's a product of public education, and I believe in it. And I would like to make sure that all the children in Monongalia County have access to a high quality educational experience so they can go on and be productive members of our society. So I look forward to your questions and answering them as best I can. So thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Micah. We appreciate you joining us tonight. Next up will be Mr. Ron Lytle, who's also an incumbent running for re-election to the Monongalia County Board of Education. Ron, you have the floor.
Thank you, Ethan. And also like to thank you, send a thank you out to the Mon County Executive Committee, Republican Executive Committee, because their forethought into this is the only real way that we get to get out in front of people. And this is an awesome opportunity to do so. I've been on the school board for 8 years, and I have learned a lot about the school system and what the school system is and how it runs over those 8 years. It's an immense amount of time that you got to dedicate to something, but when you're passionate about it, as I've become with the school board, it is something that is definitely worthwhile when you're doing that. My family, Jennifer is my wife. We've been married for 23 years, and we have 4 wonderful daughters. My oldest is Missouri. She recently, or is going to graduate from Olinsky College of Engineering and going to get a PhD, hopefully in chemical engineering at Clemson University. Dakota, another product, as Missouri was, of Morgantown High School, is at University of South Florida in St. Pete. Our new members of our family, Marquise and Lily Beth, are privileged to have the opportunity to learn at Suncrest Middle School because they have so many challenges, and that staff has really stepped up to help my family, and I really appreciate that. And as you get into the school system and the more you get around the people that work for Mon County, you realize how great a system this is. For a living, I'm actually the president of Lytle Construction Corporation. That keeps me busy about 60 hours a week. So I have other times. So I actually develop real estate. I have some land holdings, and also have a hardware and a sporting goods store that I run in my hometown, which is Confluence, Pennsylvania, which I left in 1990 to come to undergrad. And my undergrad was in sociology and anthropology with a emphasis in criminal justice. And then I went on to grad school and did my coursework for a master's degree, and I did not obtain that master's degree, did not finish my thesis in data analysis and computer data analysis, to be specific. So what keeps me busy my other time is I'm on the board of directors for PACE Incorporated, PACE Tech, as it used to be called. And that is another opportunity to serve people that need served. And if they don't know what PACE is on the streaming services, or people that aren't around Morgantown, PACE is an organization that helps people with disabilities get gainful employment, and it's a perfect tie to the school system and things I do. The other time, I do a lot of mission work here in Morgantown. I do mission work across the state, across the country, and also internationally. I spend a lot of time in the Dominican Republic, and that has become a life goal of mine to help those who are less fortunate and are dealing with everyday struggles. So, kind of like the school system, it's a mission that drives me, and it's something that I want to continue, and specifically with the school system. So it's been an honor to serve with Nancy and learn from some, Dr. Parsons and Dr. Harvey that was there before, and Mike, who continues to serve with us. We have an awesome group of people in our new members, Melanie and Sarah. What a great group we have, and I'd like to continue to move forward and keep pushing Mon County with those people at the helm. So thank you, Ethan.
Very good, Ron. Thank you for that. We welcome you and appreciate you joining tonight. Next up will be Mr. Bob Andriotto, who is the incumbent Republican seeking re-election to be our county surveyor. Give me a minute, Mr. Andriotto. Okay, you have the floor.
Okay, good evening, everyone, and welcome. My name is Bob Andriotto, probably not very well known, but I am the candidate for the Monongalia County Surveyor. I will keep my opening bio rather brief, since most of the experience is covered in a couple of the latter questions, and I'll try not to be too repetitious. I was brought up working evenings and weekends through high school and college at a local full service gas station owned by my dad. I pumped gas, cleaned windows, changed tires and oil, all to put myself through college so I could be a surveyor. I'm a proud graduate of Glenville State College, 19-year resident of Monongalia County, a small business owner and a licensed professional surveyor, and your present county surveyor. I have gone through many changes in the surveying profession throughout my surveying career. Some of those were equipment, technology, innovation, art, science, mathematics, history. All are vital parts of the profession. But sometimes the most important element is often left out, and that's people. As a surveyor, you have to be honest and respectful to be able to communicate calmly under all circumstances with all types of individuals under all types of situations. I know that is one aspect that I have mastered as a surveyor. Those who know me best can surely contest to that. I have always been respectful and honest to everyone, no matter whom or what the situation encountered. Again, I'm Bob Andriotto, and I'm looking forward to serving as your county surveyor and asking for your vote in this election. I do not know my opponent well in this election, but I'm sure he is also a good surveyor. He too will always receive my fullest respect before, during, and after this election. And I thank you, everyone, for viewing.
Very good, Mr. Andriotto. We appreciate you joining, and we appreciate your introduction there. We do have another Republican candidate who is running in the primary for surveyor, Mr. Gary Karofsky of the Maysville area, and he was unable to join tonight. I think he had made plans to, and then something must have come up. So we'll just have to, we'll pass on his introduction. Next in our order tonight, we're going to do questions for Commissioner Ed Hawkins, who is the lone Republican on the ballot in this June 9th primary for Monongalia County Commission. Before I start that, I'm going to introduce Kyle McAvoy with our committee, who's going to take the lead on asking those questions for Commissioner Hawkins. And I'd like to say that we do appreciate everyone viewing. I think we're having a little bit of technical issues with the YouTube live stream. So we are relying only on Facebook Live, and we're gathering viewers as we speak. So that number continues to grow. We welcome those viewers who are watching with us on Facebook Live. Again, my name's Ethan Moore. I'm the chairman of the Monongalia County Republican Executive Committee, and we are hosting and sponsoring a series of virtual town halls for the candidates who are in the election, both in June 9th, and then some will also be in the general come November. So we're going to start with a bank of prepared questions for County Commissioner candidate, incumbent candidate, Ed Hawkins. And while we're doing so, if our viewers on Facebook Live have questions that they would like to send in to us, you can do so by posting them right in the comment section there. We've got a member of our committee monitoring those comments and forwarding those to our moderators so that we can get those presented to the panelists. You can also email your question to info@moncountygop.org. Again, that's info@moncountygop.org, and we'll be watching that inbox as well. So Kyle, if you'll, I'm going to drop you off mute here, Kyle. Drop you off mute and bring you in and let you take the lead here with Mr. Hawkins, asking him his questions, and we'll proceed then after that.
Hi, everybody. We surely appreciate you viewing us on Facebook Live. I'm going to go ahead and get right started. Dr. Hawkins, why would you like to continue to serve Monongalia County as a county commissioner? Go ahead and unmute you there. Oh, you're going to have to unmute yourself. It's on the corner left. I'm not the...
Testing me for technology.
There we go.
it's on the corner. Ah,
There we go.
there we go. Sorry.
No problem.
Obviously, those who know me know that I did not set this up. I'm in my last wife's house right now because she is my guru on getting everything done for me. Okay. And quite frankly, I was kind of so many of these conferences that I've been watching over the past few days. I was looking for the sidebar over there to see how many nasty comments were going to be made, but I noticed you don't have that, Kyle, which that's I appreciate. Main reason is continuity. I wasn't a county commissioner until 2015. However, it was my privilege to be able to serve on a Camp Muffley board and for almost 30 years. And because of that, I got to have a lot of contact with county commission and later with another county commissioner in Acel Kennedy. And I found that a lot of times commission was not an easy place to be. And even when I started, it wasn't an easy place to be. But we have created a true teamwork at County Commission now. There's no odd man out. And we have problem solving skills that abound through all the other two members as well as myself. And that and the contacts that we've been able to facilitate over the course of the past 5 years. I'd like to continue projects that we've started. One sort of dear to my heart is the 4-H and Extension Center that we have. There's going to be a lot of expanding of this particular project. Maybe something like Capital Market may come out of this with a true year-round farmers market. A lot of potential there. And we have projects right now that we're looking at in the future. Creation of a new 911 center. I think this is going to be important. And I really think it's important to continue and manage the success that Monongalia County is. I knew that we would be able to be prosperous, but I didn't know that we would be running into something like COVID-19. Nobody ever prepares you for something like this, even though, and I noticed you did refer to me as Dr. Hawkins. I know that I have a lot of titles, so that's fine. You can just call me Ed, Kyle, just simply because it does confuse people. A lot of people know me as my previous profession, but and others use the commissioner title, but I just tell people it's just Ed. Last reason, I have experience. I really do, and think that this is a valuable thing in this particular project or in this particular office.
Thank you. I forgot myself that I had you. I had myself muted there.
That's okay.
So the next question I have for you is that thing that's changed since you've begun serving Monongalia County as a county commissioner is that all the work session minutes are recorded, and you were pretty instrumental in that change. Why was that something that was so important to you? Well,
When you have a meeting that's not a meeting, that is a meeting, and that's what work sessions were. It was argued that it wasn't a meeting because there were no votes taken. But when you have a meeting and all three commissioners are present, and you're listening to people give you information on which you will actually base a decision, it is a meeting. And I was stonewalled at first when I suggested that these work sessions should be minuted and recorded. But it was my feeling that it was public record that you should know, the public should know what was going on. Now, the argument that no vote was being taken really didn't hold water to me. It was a meeting. So how could you, and the other thing is, how can you reference something that has transpired? In other words, if you're a commissioner that comes in and you want to look back at 10 years ago on a work session, you have no record of what transpired during that work session. How do you know what the discussion was that led to the vote? Because the votes sometimes are very simple. If you tend into our meetings, you'll notice that sometimes we do have a record, I believe, of 11 minutes. So sometimes they last 40 minutes, but that's, and the compromises were offered at first by my fellow commissioners. They felt, well, perhaps if we just wrote down everybody who was attending the work session, and that I still held firm and fast on that. And after about a year and a half, commission did acquiesce that we were going to minute and record. And it just so coincided with us making a new meeting room for commission so that we could put the cameras in. So today, if you have any question about what's transpiring in a work session, you can get a recording of it just simply by requesting. And if you want to see the meetings, of course, they have been YouTubed, I believe, up since 2013. So there's a full record of what goes on. Transparency, quite frankly, transparency is very, very important to us. I mean, we want you to know that what is happening is something that is a matter of public record, always will be, and is always going to be reported on.
Thank you for that. And I mean, I know I certainly appreciate the transparency, as you said. My next question for you is, you've mentioned in the past a program, I believe under the acronym TROSA, that's in North Carolina, as a model to help people recover from homelessness. And that's an issue that we have here in Monongalia County. Would you mind elaborating on that and why it would be beneficial? It's
not just homelessness, it's also addiction. What I because she mentioned this, and I said, what is that? She said she went out to get her Christmas tree. And it is a program that was started over 20 years ago in Durham, and it encompassed bringing in individuals who had problems of homelessness, addiction, and starting them on a training program. Now they are up to having a large 13-acre campus. And the initial thing about this was that it was started in concert with sort of what we were or have. A county commission down there in North Carolina decided to let a lease of a school that they had been given by the Board of Education, much like this commission has been gifted schools from the Board of Education. And that was where they started. And so individuals now come into this. And even though we've got a virus epidemic on our hands right now, our homelessness problem is not going away. Our other problems of drug addictions are not going away. So the best thing you can do is find a way to give these individuals, first of all, hope, and then full and gainful and meaning employment, place to live. And so that's what this program has expanded from. And it's sort of in what you might look at as what PACE does for the individuals that they serve, only in a different direction. They have gardening services here in Durham. They have lawn services. They sell the Christmas trees, maintenance. So there's a lot of things that that they offer education on, and then putting these individuals into a job, then gainfully coming back into society. Because it's really hard for somebody to say, oh yeah, I'm going to hire that guy when he has an arrest record. And that's what usually happens. You're going to end up with a very large arrest record if you've gotten into addiction. I know this. I've watched these poor individuals, and it's hard to escape. And the hopelessness that you have sometimes is the reason for going back to that thing that gives you that joy in your life for whatever time it is. So this program, I think, would be something that might be, I briefly discussed this with individual members of PACE, thinking that perhaps this might be something, they've already got the model. It could be an expansion, perhaps at Milan Park, of something that would be, I think, really a beneficial program to our community.
Thank you. I have a couple more questions. Next one I have is that there was some controversy recently regarding some funds to the Sierra Club, and yourself, and along with other members of the County Commission, pushed to ensure that those funds were being used properly. Would you care to elaborate on the importance of accountability of our public funds?
Well, again, we've already touched on transparency, but it's paramount. This commission became the first commission, first county commission to participate in the Open Gov that was set out by J.B. McCluskey, our state auditor, and he has continued to work with us. He makes sure that you can see all the transactions, the expenditures, whenever we have a kink, we've been able to really, I can't say enough about Auditor McCluskey. He answers the phone. He texts us back. He will get us in constant contact with if we have anything that is something that is a little bit difficult. You learn to navigate it. Once you learn to navigate it, you can find wherever the expenditure was at the county level of all our funding. And that, by making astute budget analysis, you've been able to see that your property taxes and levy rates have been able to be cut 3 years now in a row. And if we're not the lowest in the state, we're the next to the lowest. So we're really proud of this. This accountability gives us I think, the credibility to other people to say, look, they're doing a good job here. That's called responsibility.
Thank you. We do have a question that's come in on Facebook Live. I'm going to go ahead and read that to you. Mon County continues to be the shining star of West Virginia with continued growth, especially in the eastern part of the county. Most of this recent growth takes place outside of the boundaries of municipalities. What are your thoughts on how the county can continue to provide ample public services and manage infrastructure given such growth?
Well, we have maintained a lot of this through TIF projects. In other words, this growth. I'm looking forward now to some other projects that that are in the works. To continue is to make sure that everybody works together. We don't want to exclude a group. Sometimes there seems to be the fact that maybe we don't want to work with the city of Morgantown, or we don't want to work with Granville, or we don't want to work with. This is not the case. We want to strengthen the bonds of what we have so that all of these individual municipalities, as well as expansion into other areas. In other words, the infrastructure usually is almost always that we see by a TIF development now. And another one of those, elaborate on it a little bit.
Well, thank you. I appreciate you answering that question. And I think that was a good question to come in from Facebook Live. I want to, re-emphasize that if anyone has questions, they can write in. And if, if somebody writes a little bit later, we can always come back to you if we get some more questions. The last question I had for you at this time is that the County Commission, including yourself, have taken a number of steps to work with the West Virginia Department of Highways to try to improve our roads. Can you outline some of those steps and what your goals are for the future?
Well, as most of you know, we don't control the roads, even though it says county roads. All the roads in Monongalia County are state roads. However, it doesn't stop you from forming good relationships and working in concert. And this is what we have finally been able to achieve with the DOH. We've been able to communicate to them the things that we need to benefit this county. The district supervisor is Darby Clayton. I assure you that when I text or email or call, he answers me back almost immediately if he possibly can, but he always gets back to us. And at the state level, Jimmy Reston and Bird White will be meeting, and we've set up a meeting with them to go over our projects every 6 months. On a personal level, Bird White and I do talk otherwise because we both have the same idiosyncrasies of love of old British sports cars. So when you have something that you've established a friendship along and a line, then you continue that friendship. And so I personally do text him from time to time about his cars and mine. We're working together right now. Obviously, we created 153 exit as well as the bridge to the West Ridge by TIF management. And of course, this way, the state didn't have to pay for the interchange or the bridge. It simply was created from the TIF district. And we're now looking at a proposal that I think is going to be very fruitful, which will be another exit. I believe they've termed it the Harmony Grove exit, but this is a way to facilitate entry into the industrial park. This would create a way of getting material to Advent and other downstream industries that might be established in this industrial park. And we hopefully will get away from going through downtown Westover. Also facilitating the Board of Education, this would give another exit for the two schools that are located just right there, because if something happens, particularly when we had a slip on the road down below, there was only one road in and one road out to these schools. So our project last year was to pave and have a good entry made to Milan Park. So we're looking forward to suggestions that we might be able to have from DOH, and again, work with them on establishing a project that County Commission can participate in.
Well, that's the question I have for you right now. If we get some more questions coming in from Facebook Live, I'm sure we can circle back to you, but I'd like to thank you very much for your time. And thank you for the thoughtful and open answers.
Thank you, Kyle.
I'm going to turn it back over to Chairman Ethan Moore.
And very good. Thank you, Commissioner Hawkins, for you're always thorough and always transparent with your answers. Thank you for joining us tonight, and thank you for those answers. Again, as Kyle said, Kyle is our vice chairman for our committee. Myself, Kyle, and Paula Martinelli are the three moderators that are on this call representing Monongalia County Republican Executive Committee. I'd like to mention again to our Facebook Live viewers that they can submit a question via the comments on that stream. You can email them to us at info@moncountygop.org. You can text them 304-276-5050. We don't want your voice not to be heard. So if you have a question and you want to pose it to one of our upcoming panelists, by all means, there are lots of ways to get that done. So we're going to go in. We're going to start now with a series of a bank of questions that we have prepared for Monongalia County Board of Education candidates. And that order, excuse me, again, that order has been determined at random. We'll start out, the order starts out Wiglinski, Lytle, Walker, then Lytle, Walker, Wiglinski, then Walker, Wiglinski, Lytle. That way someone's not always answering a question first. And so our first question for Board of Education candidate, Micah Wiglinski. Micah, I'll read the question and then just give me a split second to take you off mute, and then you'll have the floor to address the question. So our question is, what do you believe the role of a member of the Board of Education to be?
Okay, so the Board of Education oversees the staff, faculty, the buildings, expenses, things like that. But I think, that's kind of just like the technical roles. But I think on a bigger picture, we're responsible for helping provide a safe and engaging academic experience for all the students in our county. And I think one of the biggest things that we can do, and I think Mr. Hawkins brought up, is accountability. And as a tax funded board, we have to be accountable for those funds that come from the public. And I take that responsibility seriously. And I think that one of the biggest challenges that will be coming up to county school boards will be the creation of charter schools and the funneling of money away from public schools and into private businesses that will have little accountability. So as someone, if I get elected to school board, that will be my chief goal, will be to make sure that the limited funds that we have for our county school board will be spent wisely, and there will be accountability for those funds.
Okay, very good. Thank you for that answer, Micah. I'm going to take a minute here just to click mute. Next up will be incumbent candidate Ron Lytle answering the same question. Ron, what do you believe the role of a member of the Board of Education to be?
I think the main role of a Board of Education member is to represent each and every kid in Monongalia County with an equal give them an equal opportunity for education. I take the question earlier, and that was a question that I about fell over when I heard it, but when someone said about, particularly the eastern end of the county, the western end of the county is part of the backbone of this county. I mean, you talk about hardworking people, and for someone to say that, and not to take into account that they tear up Route 7 coming in here to help Mon County and help drive this community. So our job is to, if they're on the extreme west, extreme east, anywhere in between, we represent every single kid. The one thing that is kind of confusing sometimes is we have one employee as a county board of education. Our employee is a superintendent. The 5 board members, and I'm going to say there are 5 board members, and we each have 20% of say in what goes on. So the idea of a board member going out into the community and making decisions for the board or trying to guide a school individually, that's obviously out of line and is something that we've worked really hard as a board to make sure that doesn't happen. And that does not happen with our board. We want to keep it that way. The levies, we set the levies, we set the funding levels for the schools. And one thing we've done recently, and it took a lot of hard work, and we actually decreased the bond levy. And that decrease in the bond levy, is small as the bond is in our greater funds, is a $2.5 to $3 million savings for the taxpayers of Mon County. That's just one decision. We are responsible for ensuring that the money that's given from the taxpayers, and it is a substantial amount of money. I mean, our taxpayers in Mon County we cannot thank them enough. And I hear that from service people, teachers, administrators. I hear from everybody that this community really funds our schools well. We are a policy board. We are not a down in the dirt. I'm usually that kind of person when it comes to every other organization. But when it comes to the Board of Education, we set policies. And our job is to make sure that the superintendent and his staff enforce those policies. And those policies, if they aren't doing the job they need to be doing, we need to reset them policies. And that's what we do as a board. We hire and fire personnel. We do as much as we can to support our personnel. And that's one of our jobs. One of our main jobs, and something that I think I'm really strong at, and particularly recently, I tore through a contract, and there was a $5 million contract for the board, and it really was about $2.5 million worth of work. The rest of it was oversight and engineering, and et cetera. And we're about 7% usually on contracts, or maybe 10% on the smaller. And that was one of the, we have to watch every single penny. So when you start talking $2.5 million, you're talking a lot of money that would have been wasted in a lot of schools that would not have been given the opportunity to better themselves. We're team builders. That's really what the board is. We help build the administrative team. We watch over that administrative team. And one example would be scheduling. People say, why did you guys set the schedule for mid-August, or why you guys want to go through June? And the answer to that is we take the input from our staff, a good representation of the staff, and we take 2 or 3 options, put them together at the scheduling committee, and we go with what they say. I mean, we help them to do the things they need to do. Curriculum, educational materials, all come to us for approval, but we build teams. We have extremely gifted educators, and that has to do with a lot of the draw of the community. But we build teams. That's one of the things that the Board of Education does. We're also the bridge between the community. Hope I'm not running out of time, Ethan, but
we're bumping up against it. I don't make sure I don't cut Nancy out, but
the bridge between the public education and the community, and that's working with the county commissioner. And Ed had spoke earlier. He is driven by helping kids. That's one thing that you cannot say about Ed Hawkins, that he doesn't care about kids. That's one of the things. And really, we're the main cheerleaders. I think that there's 5 of us that cheer on and back this staff as much as we can. And it's been an honor to do that. And it's not hard to cheer for people when they're doing the job they're doing. So I will yield to the sage of the Board of Education, Miss Madam Walker. So,
very good. Thank you, Ron. Your part of the answer there you provided is going to segue nicely into a question that we have received via text, which is a question about levy funding and that process. I'd like to get through this question and then we'll bring that question in just because you brought that topic up and it's kind of relevant at the moment. So just hold that thought and we'll be back on levy funding here in just a minute. But I do want to let incumbent candidate Nancy Walker, who is running for re-election to the Board of Education, answer our first question from our bank. Nancy, I'm going to unmute you. You have the floor. The question again is, what do you believe the role is of a member of the Board of Education?
I have always viewed the role of a Board of Education member to be the voice of everyone. We have to try and let the school community, the parents, the taxpayers, the students, the educators, the service personnel staff, anyone in Monongalia County, we are someone that someone can contact, or we can bring a concern to the whole board, to the superintendent, to the administrative staff. We can also serve as a resource to our legislators in Charleston as they are continually looking at the state legislative code that actually puts into practice a lot of things that we have to enforce in the schools. There's the State Department of Education that we also have to take guidance from. The State Board of Education that a lot of times sets the policies. And as Mr. Lytle referred to, our really only one employee is the superintendent of the Board of Superintendent of Schools for Monongalia County. So I think all of us, when you become a board member, you look at every staff person, that's my staff person, that's our staff people. You look at every student, every school, every road in front of the school. You really look at the big picture and try and see what you can set into the motion or suggest or create an environment for everyone to be able to be their best selves, for every student to be able to be served to the best of our abilities, the school's abilities, yet let every school have their own personality. Every school may have a different ultimate theme for a year, a different ultimate goal, a different way they feel their school community can reach those goals. So it's a really interesting position to be in. And it is something, if you look sometimes at other counties or other states where maybe things are not working so well, you can see how sometimes not collaborating with existing entities out in the community, your existing school communities, your ready-made volunteer systems that already exist, how it can be very disruptive. So we want to make Monongalia County schools national leaders, state leaders, and a place that every student and every family can say, I'm happy I'm here. I'm happy that I was able to work with everyone in my school or everyone in the county. So it's a really interesting job. And once you get into it, it kind of bites you and you really want to stay because you learn things along the way through the different processes. And it helps you know how to take care or make suggestions to how to make things easier for our students and our families in Monongalia County.
Very good, Nancy. Thank you for that answer. We appreciate it. As I mentioned before, well, let me click your mute there. As I mentioned before, we're going to take this question that we received via text now. We'll just sort of insert it here. Ron, surely you won't mind, since you brought the topic up in your answer to your first question. The question that I have is, please elaborate on excess levy funding. How much of it, how is it applied, and what % of the budget comes from excess levy? And explain the importance to the overall being of our school system.
Am I live?
Yep, go ahead, Ron.
Well, I can tell you how important it is. We don't have to have bake sales, and we don't have to go out and beg for money to run the school system. The community stepped up and said, this is important to us. Our excess levy in round numbers this year, out of a budget of 150,000, actually that includes 165 includes federal funds. So when you take it down to money that we actually spend within the county that's not earmarked for federal programs, it's about 25% of our budget. So if you start thinking about the things we've done to take care of overcrowding, that's something that comes out of levies, is additional teachers. There's psychological and social services that come out of that too. We think about students. You always think about their educational needs, but these kids, if they're hungry, if they're having psychological problems, if they're having physical problems, if there's something going on in their lives, that destroys their chances of getting education. When the secondary thought in your mind is education, that's an issue. So the additional services, it helps us. So when they call them wraparound services, I don't like to use words like that necessarily in something where you're talking to people who don't listen to this daily, but wraparound service means we wrap it entirely around the kid and try to identify the needs of all 12,000 kids. And I think, if I remember right, I think I said 150,000 is our budget. That's quite under what it is. It's actually 150 million. So about 25% of our budget. It turfs on the fields. It helps with sports programs. I mean, each of our schools get money for sports programs. I know I'm going to forget something. Psychological people in the rooms. It helps cut our class sizes so that the teachers can take care of less students and give a little more individual concentration to each one. Facilities. I mean, if you think about something, when you start talking about a school system where we're working currently on Brookhaven, we have pretty much redone or rebuilt every school in Mon County, and no matter where it's at, that's what we have striven to do over the last, and we made that decision. But that decision was actually made before I got on the first 8 years ago, and it's continued to go forward. So just facilities, transportation for the kids. There's so much stuff that our schools can do. Additional resources for in the classroom that come out of the levy funds, and it would put us on life support at this point if the levy would go down. We'd really have to rethink how we educate more people in Mon County. So thank you for letting me answer that, but just thank you for the taxpayers, and I appreciate all they do.
Micah, I'm going to bring, let me mute Ron. Micah, you'll get that question next. I understand there's a little bit of, Ron and Nancy both have got experience as incumbents, knowing the numbers and seeing spreadsheets and hard data. Perhaps you'd like to answer that question just more theoretically. What is your view of excess levy funding in the county? How is it applied? What could change? What should, just give thoughts on excess levy funding and what your view is the way it interplays in our board. 1 second, Micah.
Okay.
Okay.
Thanks, Ethan. It's a great question. And I always look at, when I have friends who've moved here from other states, and they look at the numbers, and, West Virginia schools are failing, and, all those things. And I always point to Monongalia County schools as a shining light. And I think the fact that the taxpayers in our county continually support excess levies shows that people here care about public education and want the students in our county to have all the resources they need to be successful. So that shows the support that we have. And one of the programs that the excess levy supports is the extended day services and the summer snowflakes. And I know a ton of people who utilize those programs in the summer to give their children an opportunity to have a multitude of experiences in the summer. And I think they're great. And the data shows that students who are born into poverty over summer months generally lag behind students that are not born into poverty. And these excess programs that go on through the summer help to equalize that. And I think that's great. And I know the summer feeding program is not necessarily part of that, but it's usually tied in with the summer snowflakes and other programs. And I think that's a great way to ensure that students in our county aren't going hungry when they're not able to get breakfast and lunch from school. So I think we should continue to support the levies. And like Mr. Lytle said, it helps do all these extra things that normally would be much more of a challenge to do if we didn't have those extra funds. So thank you to the taxpayers out there for supporting them.
Very good. Thank you, Micah, for that answer. We'll go next to Nancy Walker with her answer. Ron did an excellent job laying things out, and Micah gives a outside the board view, and now Nancy can cap again here. Go ahead, Nancy, you have the floor.
All right, I'm going to talk a little bit about school funding. The state of West Virginia, if you look on your tax bill, it'll say school levy, and it'll look like something that, well, how did I get that? That was something that was determined by the legislature in Charleston. Those funds go down there, and then by the state funding formula, we get some of that back. We also had a building bond that was voted on by the taxpayer that allowed us to enlarge and realign our school system so we were able to have facilities that provided full-time art, full-time music, full-time school counselors, and other enhancements in the schools that maybe people had to be itinerant or move around between schools. So that's one thing that our taxpayers have funded. And then the excess levy, which I really do not care for the term excess, because what it does is it provides extra funding, as Ron alluded to, and Micah, that we are able to make our programming and offerings the best it can be. So as an example, all the wonderful Chromebooks that everyone has had at home, if you had a third grader through high school student, that has allowed us to continue to do teaching during this COVID-19 pandemic is an outgrowth of excess levy funding, but also an outgrowth of the vision and focus of our administrative staff and what they thought the future was going to be. So what does this last levy do for us, this 25% of our budget? It allows us to be able to pay our teachers and staff a higher rate because we value our teachers and staff, and they deserve that. Our national board certified teachers deserve to receive the extra stipend for getting that kind of certification that really is a huge amount of work and also enhances their ability in the classroom. We're able to do the student support services, the nursing. We have a high amount of highly involved medical needs in our schools and in our students. We need to have those nurses in there. Our psychology services, the other enhancement to the school buildings so that when students go in there, they're clean. They are happy with their buildings. We're able to make improvements as we need to. We have the misters that you see on television that we started using actually at the beginning of flu season so that we could be sure that our buildings were being sanitized and that we were trying to make sure that there wasn't a spread of disease. And with this COVID-19, it's something that we're using in all our buildings all the time to make sure that we're keeping that up. So these levies are integral to who Monongalia County is and has become and will continue to be. And again, that's because the taxpayers believe and support public education. We actually, you'll hear, if you listen to our board meetings, which are also available live and on tape, you will hear a lot of times we'll say, and that's because of the excess levy. And thank you so much to the taxpayers, because the list of what we're able to do and stretch and blend those other funds with other funds that we're able to get through grants or other ideas that we have really make Monongalia County a standout, not just in West Virginia, but in the nation.
Very good, Nancy. Thank you for that thorough answer. We appreciate you. I think our takeaway from all three candidates in that answer process was Monongalia County schools are well funded and well cared for by the citizens here who obviously put a high value on a quality public education, and it shows. And so thank you, Nancy. Thank you, Ron. Thank you, Micah, for that answer. One more, we're going to do another question that came in on our Facebook question. So our order is a little bit off. We kind of jumped around. So I've written a new order here. We started with Ron first with the Levy question. So it was Lytle, Wiglinski, Walker. And so for this question, we'll do Wiglinski, Walker, Lytle. Then if we get another internet question, it'll be Walker, Lytle, Wiglinski. So this question comes from a Facebook Live commenter. I'll read the question, Micah, and then just give me a second to move my hands around and get you unmuted. So many parents are concerned about the comprehensive sex education that is hidden in basic subjects in all grades, as well as the sex education curriculum itself. What will you do as a BOE member to look into this to allow concerned parents to help choose curriculum or choose to allow their children to participate in certain lessons or the instruction altogether? And you have the floor, Mr. Wiglinski.
Okay. Well, a basic function of our education system is to use facts that are based on studies and experts in the field. So I think as long as the educational material that is out there is based in data and based in facts from people who do that type of work, and it's age appropriate, then those are the types of curriculum that we should be supporting. And students of all levels should be comfortable with learning about sex. They should be learning about their bodies. They should be learning about consent. They should be learning about other people and how they can interact with those people. So I fully support those things. And I know that people have different views on those, and I certainly respect those, but we are a public education and we need to make sure that we are based in facts and data. And if people, I know there's always times where if there's a curriculum change, we always want to hear from people in the community and people can give their feedback. And if those types of things are not what they would like them to be, they always have the choice to take their child out, put them in private school, or choose to homeschool their child.
Okay, I thank you for that, Micah. Let me drop you onto mute. Next in the rotation will be Nancy again. Nancy, would you like for me to read the question again, or have you got an answer, or I'll just give you the floor?
I think I have an answer. I would like to say that we do teach health, we do teach biology, we do teach all of the subjects in that are related to the question that was asked, and those are age appropriate. We have instructional goals and objectives that the state of West Virginia also publishes that we follow. And I do know that in the younger grades, when it is time to broach these subjects, especially if it's about, I would say, later elementary school, when children's bodies are starting to change and people are maturing at different levels, there is permission slips that are sent home to the parents to say, do you want your child to be a part of this activity in this discussion? We also try to respect all different faiths, nationalities, and also our international community that may have specific views on some of these subjects. So I think the school communities attempt to be sensitive and take into account the families that may feel that is not appropriate for their child at a certain age. But I know that we also have a responsibility to present material sometimes that is sensitive, and that is why we use our teachers work very hard to be sensitive to that. Our school counselors are part of a lot of this instructional material. We have a thorough review of what is presented at the schools and try to be sensitive to the issues that are going to be happening, because I do think that it's very difficult as your children matriculate through the school system. that to see the differences, and that some children are so mature and ready to delve into these subjects and really need the biological and science background in this, because what is happening to their own bodies, and that some children just aren't as mature physically or emotionally. So we try to be respectful of all that, and I feel that's also part of our responsibility as a public education system.
Very good, Nancy. Thank you for your answer there. I'm coming over to, let me click the mute. Coming over now to Ron Lytle for his answer. Ron, you need the question read again?
No, I don't, Ethan. Thank you for that. We rely on our professionals for curriculum selection. They do a thorough job of researching all the materials that's out there, and to say that all ages need sexual education is absolutely not the case. But we leave that in the hands of our educators to select curriculum, and then that curriculum comes to the Board of Education for final decision through the superintendent's recommendations. I have not, in my time in the Board of Education, had one example of someone coming and saying this is not age appropriate for the grade level it's on. So the curriculum selection, our professionals and the job they do at the building level, administrators, the oversight that's on that level, and also the counselors, psychologists, the people that we have employed do a wonderful job of curriculum selection. And we have not at the board level had any opportunity to deny something, because stuff comes to us. The curriculum that is selected is on point for age appropriate education. So. And as far as saying, do we need that kindergarten, first grade education on human bodies, and that's just a little bit too early for that. So we rely on our staff for that selection, and they have come through every time.
Very good. Thank you, Ron, for your answer. We do have two other questions. We've got one more that was posted in our Facebook comments, and then we have one that was received via email. We're going to go back into our bank of questions just to get back into our order, and then we'll come back to those other two questions. So Facebook viewers, if you are watching, you have a question that you want to pose to the panelists, please go ahead and post it there in the comment section on your Facebook Live feed. You can email that question to info@moncountygop.org. You can also text that question to 304-276-5050. That's my cell phone here. That's why you keep seeing me look down. I'm seeing texts and answering texts. So we're also communicating with our moderators that way as well. So we're going to go back into our bank of questions with question B. Ron, you'll get to answer first. So you're kind of back to back. You're doing a double header here. Question B, what is your academic vision for the schools of Monongalia County for the next 4 years?
Our academic vision will continue to be exactly what it's always been, that we will continue to strive to improve. And the things that we're working on specifically, as we've identified not as weaknesses within the county, but things that we want to get better at. I mean, we are, our teachers are excellent and the outcomes are excellent. But what we took on 2 years ago was Math for Life. And Math for Life is a constant improvement, constant analysis of how our math programs within the schools are moving forward. So the academic vision for the next 4 years, we're in year 2 of 5 of that. So we'll continue to focus on math education and trying to pump resources to all levels. And one thing I will say is, and we're being successful. I mean, I've had professors in colleges tell me, you could tell when a kid comes, he's from Mon County, or he or she is from Mon County. So the other thing, academic vision is the total reformation of vocational education. We have worked diligently to try to identify ways to bring vocational education within our schools. As we think of the traditional vocational education, where you'd be talking carpenters, welders, culinary, those kinds of things, we're getting out of that. Our typing is becoming computer sciences. You know, the kids aren't learning to type on the computer, they're learning to work within and on that computer. I'd say the trades, instead of just doing the work, engineering, we're trying to pull that into a little bit of engineering into our vocational education, where they're designing things. And design is where the money's at. The actual performance of goals a lot of times isn't nearly as well funded. So vocational education, that's where we're moving to. Medical technology education, things instead of an assistant in a doctor's office, someone that's actually performing tasks within that and is moving on to a vocation that's going to pay off in their lives. So, we stressing math, because that's good across the board, but vocational education for those that aren't looking to go on to college is a great thing. And even those that do go on to college, as I'm saying, as we embed those credits within those classes. So those could be an experience that they have while they're in high school.
Very good. Thank you, Ron, for that answer. The second in our rotation now for these banked questions, the second to answer that will be Nancy Walker. And so Nancy, let me get clicked over to you. Go ahead, Nancy, you have the floor.
We are constantly looking forward in Monongalia County. What is the next challenge and what do we need to be looking at? As Ron alluded to, we are putting a large focus on mathematics. Over my years with Monongalia County Schools, we have at times selected certain subject areas to refocus on again. And we've done that with reading. We're doing that with mathematics and professional development, and also math for life. And as he talked about the technical education, we have had pilot programs for the state and others to take it down into middle school. And we currently have a large program going on at Westwood Middle School that is integrating the hands-on world of education, where the students actually have to self-direct in how they're going to receive instruction in certain areas. And I think it has proven to be successful. That also is in a ongoing role in that we have partnered with the state, and we're waiting to see how this cohort does that actually started with that. I always think we're looking for the next thing and trying to be visionary. We're currently in the middle of the comprehensive educational facilities plan that the state of West Virginia has us redo every 10 years. And actually it's a community-based plan that is then brought to the board. But in that, part of it is, what are the jobs of the future going to be? And we don't know that yet. And we're trying to look out and make sure we're able to support our students in order to be successful in the future jobs that we may not even really know what they are yet. So I like to think that we are a school system that has no ceiling. If you're a student that may be extremely gifted in one subject area, but maybe considered to be normal or average in something else, that you're allowed to be able to be the best you can be in the subject area that is your keen interest or that you're extremely gifted in. We have to have differentiated instruction because not all children learn the same way. And we have to continue to support that with our educators, because I think we're all seeing now any parent that's home now educating their child with their Chromebook or with the materials they're receiving. Every child learns differently, and we have to know how to tap into all of that for all of our students. So I would say that we're a county system, a board that expects everyone to grow and constantly be moving forward, be visionary. And our job is to make sure we're supplying the correct resources to the correct areas to make all that happen. We are continually, as Mr. Lytle alluded to, expanding our technical education offerings. And I think we see a lot of that out into the community. And I am hopeful that we're going to be able to have more and more students participate in all of those things. So thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to chime in here for Ethan Moore for a few moments. I believe next we had Mr. Olinsky. Can you, let's see here, if you want to chime in. Do you need me to reread the question or do you have an answer? Oh, you're still muted. Here, hold on. You have to unmute yourself there. Can you? Yeah, you'll have to unmute yourself on the.
Okay. That
Thank
was
you.
weird.
We got you now. Thank you.
You don't have to read the question. So the COVID-19 or coronavirus pandemic, I think, shined a light on all aspects of our life. And I think one thing that it shows us is that we need to be flexible in an ever-changing world. And as a academic vision for our county school, I think we need to take that same approach. Times are changing very quickly. And as Ms. Walker said, there are things that in job markets and issues that we don't even know about that will be there in 4 years. So we have to plan for that. We have to give our students and our children the tools to become independent people. As a parent, my wife and I spoke about this when we decided to have children. Like, that should be our number one goal for raising our kids, is for them to be able to go out in the world and be independent. And the students who are going through our school system now need to learn basic life skills. They need to know how to fill out a job application. They need to know how to balance their checkbook. They need to know about credit cards and how they can destroy you if you use them to buy things you don't really need. And I have friends who teach entry-level classes in college, and they tell me all the time that they see students who graduated high school and they don't know how to put together a paragraph. They don't know how to email a file to them. So I think at a very basic level, we need to make sure that students are reaching those kind of basic needs. I totally agree with both Mr. Lytle and Ms. Walker about the need for vocational education. Try to get a plumber to come to your house when you have a leaky pipe at 2 o'clock in the morning, and if you can, see how much it costs you. Those types of jobs are very important to our economy. They're very important to all the people in our county. And I love what we're doing at MCREC. I love what we're doing with the programs getting younger people involved. When I went to my first year in middle school, I still remember Mr. Miller and our woodshop class, and we went in there and we started to do things with our hands and cut things and build a birdhouse. And even though I chose to go the college route and wind up being a teacher, those experiences still are in my mind, and I still love to do those types of activities on my house, on my own, to help my friends. So I think this mix of getting students ready to join the workforce, to become independent, and also to achieve whatever they would like to do in their life. And that's what I think our vision should be, is to be flexible to allow that to happen.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I believe the order now would be to go back to Mr. Lytle for the next round of questions. I'm going to go ahead and pull that up here. What is your opinion of how Monongalia County schools have responded to the recent COVID-19 and situation, and how do you believe the education system can recover?
Back on.
That should be for Ron. You might have to unmute yourself here. I don't have, up there you go.
Am I live?
Yes, you are.
Okay. How did we respond? In the beginning, we worked really closely with the state department and the governor's office to decide exactly how to handle this. They kept us in the loop and kept us informed on what was going on, and it was a very good job of communicating early on. The one thing we were lucky is that we had Chromebooks. The ability for our kids to take education and the ability to connect home with them was also, going back to the levy, that was a levy funded thing. And the fact that we could respond in the way we did with those Chromebooks was a godsend for our kids in this county. Our service personnel, even after everyone was told, we're closing schools, they continued to take food out, continued to prepare food for the kids. I mean, these people have dedicated their lives to these kids. And when they were told to go home, they were told they could be off. They decided, no, I'm not going to. I'm going to go back in. I'm going to make this available. Our dedicated teachers, the fact that they continue to do as much as they possibly can to reach each and every kid and continue the education process through this, speaks volumes of what the kind of people that they are. And I've the outreach coordinators, the ones that the at-risk students, the ones that deal with them daily through the year, and also continue to during this. We just can't say enough about that. And we have, as a school system, we've continued to do the feeding program. We fed, I think today we did 2,750 meals that were delivered by volunteers out of Milan Park's Hazelwood McQueen Foundation building. We packed those up yesterday and took them out today. So the basic needs have been met. And that's a special shout out to the Commissioner of Agriculture, Kent Leonhardt. He does a great job partnering with us to keep that going. And also community members like Justin Byers. But the ones that really, as far as the response to this, the teachers, the outreach coordinators, and the fact that they are continuing today to go out in the field and touch base with these students face to face, obviously social safe distance and not socially distance, physically distance, because they are connected socially to these kids, and that is it's been a statement to this community and to this community education community in Mon County. That the response to this has been nothing short of phenomenal, and I'm proud of the job that our administrators did, and also our staff to continue to service the 12,000 kids that are out there. So.
Very good. Thank you, Ron. We appreciate that answer. I think we're going to go to Nancy Walker next for an answer on the same question. Again, that is, what is your opinion of how Monongalia County schools have responded to the recent COVID-19 situation, and how do you believe the system can recover? Before I unmute you, Nancy, I just wanted to mention, ladies and gentlemen, we're running, it's 80 minutes now of our Facebook town hall, virtual town hall here. We've got an audience built on Facebook. We've got questions coming in. We welcome those guests who are watching and participating. And I'm going to ask our panelists to just think in terms of brevity. Try to keep your answers short and terse, and just help us move along so that we can get to Mr. Andriotto, and so that Mr. Hawkins, we might catch a question here for him as well. And I don't want him to be lost as the night drags on. So Nancy, I'm going to unmute you, and you'll have the floor to answer about the school system and its response to COVID-19.
I feel like we have stepped to the forefront of support for families and students in Monongalia County. When the Chromebooks went out, a lot of our instructors actually loaded extra materials in case something would happen, because originally Chromebook education was created for review and maybe not new materials, but I think people knew something was on the horizon. We've tried to remain fluid, as to borrow Micah's term, during this situation, because it is an ever-changing landscape, and we want our students not to suffer a severe anxiety any more than they have to, because their basic needs are not being met, which is part of the reason that we have worked so hard to partner and be successful in food delivery with 5 lunches, 5 breakfasts, 10 drinks, to make sure that a lot of students are still receiving daytime meals with their families at their home. I think we have worked, the staff has stepped up to move things forward and try and follow the lead to create an academic environment that students can still continue to thrive. And I do know that non-traditional classroom people in our system have reached out. We wanted, the board, the administration, everyone wanted to be sure that all families and all students were accounted for, and we have been able to work within the system to do that. And I think that's been a very important thing that the school system has done. So in the case of brevity, I'm going to let it move on, because I think there's still more we'll still be doing till the 22nd if that need arises.
Yeah, very good. Thank you, Nancy. We appreciate your answer. Mr. Wiglinski, we'll come to you for your answer. You have the floor.
So I think we were all caught off guard by the COVID-19 pandemic. And I think closing schools when they did was the absolute correct decision. And I supported that 100%. I guess I have a unique perspective since I'm not on the board, and I can take my candidate hat off and put my parent hat on. I think there were a lot of things that were done really well. The Chromebook assignments are one of them. And special, I mean, the teachers that basically without very much advance notice rewrote how they would do curriculum. And that's what teachers do. We adapt. We find out how things are working and do them, and find out what things aren't working and change them. So I think they've done a tremendous job. Like Mr. Lytle said, the outreach coordinators that are reaching the at-risk students in our county are doing a tremendous job, risking their own health by being out there doing home visits. It's amazing. I know some of the issues that have come up, and I always think you can just use these to see how you can do better. Internet connectivity for a lot of students in our county is a big issue. So if we're relying just on Chromebooks to get out that information or to get assignments, if they're having problem with internet, or people in the western end of the county don't have consistent internet, then they're missing out. And we need to make sure and develop ways that all of those students can get that instruction. So whether that's providing transportation to the school and be outside and use the school's Wi-Fi to download, that might be one way to do it. I think part of the question was, how will we recover? And I think that's a great part and segue, because I like to look forward. And I think what we need to do is remember that our children and everyone is going through an immense deal of stress right now, and things that we've never seen before. And whether we know it or not, our kids are always watching us. They're always picking up on those things. And we need to ensure that everyone, and especially the youngest people, are having their emotional needs and their emotional health monitored and watched. And what we can do is we can trust our teachers. I taught kindergarten for a year. We have students who come to school and can read second grade level books. And we have kids who come to school and don't know what letters are and don't know how to eat with a fork. And we let those teachers do their job and follow the curriculum. And by the end of that school year, they're able to raise all those students up. So I think when the students go back to school, we need to let the teachers go. We need to let them monitor what's going on with their classrooms, give them the support that they need, and let them build up these students back with their emotional health and work back to getting everybody back up to an educational level where they can achieve. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Micah. So in our bank of questions, our fourth question dealt with school funding. And I think it's fair to say that we addressed that fairly well in the excess levy question. Nancy and Ron and Micah all covered that very well. So we're just going to we're going to wrap up this session with our Board of Education candidates with one last public question that came in via email, and that was regarding school safety. And I'm just summarizing it again in the interest of brevity, and I'll ask that our candidates do the same. The question is, please assess or provide your evaluation of the status of safety in schools in Monongalia County. What changes would you make, additions, change or reductions? And we'll start. It's Nancy first, and then Ron, and then Micah.
So school safety is something that we're constantly assessing and working on in every school. Even some of our newer buildings and newer construction, you can see that we changed the entrances. We changed the fact that you have to check in the office. You have to leave your driver's license. You can't just wander around the building. And we try to create a safe environment for all students that are in Monongalia County schools. We support our educators with giving them advanced trainings and letting them know how they would have to deal with different challenges in their buildings, intruders in their buildings, other things they may see that, again, this is a situation that maybe 10, 15 years ago we wouldn't have ever imagined, or when any of us was in school. So this is we have good relationship with law enforcement, with other officials in the community that review our plans and also know how to work with us if there's a challenging situation going on. And our building level administrators are constantly looking and researching things they can do to make our students feel more safe. And I think actually, as we look our students coming back into the schools after COVID-19, and I know a lot of our younger students and younger children are talking about the germ, the germ, the germ. I'm sure they're going to be nervous about is the germ here in this building. So that's going to be something else we're going to have to address in terms of school safety. I think the health and wellness of our students, and I know our psychology staff and counseling staff will be working together to try to make school feel safe again for our students and reassure them about how we're moving forward. So I do think school safety is something that's continually assessed, reviewed. Any type of new enhancements that can be made, again, that's where our excess levy money comes in. We try to apply that to the different school facilities, physical buildings, to make sure that our students in Monongalia County are as safe as humanly can be possible.
And thank you, Nancy. Next up will be Ron Lytle addressing the same question. Again, I can't award bonus points, but brevity will be smiled upon.
Okay, then I will be brief. As I've heard in the past, if I told you everything we were doing, I'd have to take you out, Ethan. We live in fear on a safe level. You know, we're constantly evaluating our schools. Every single school we upgrade, we do safe schools, safe entry. We limit entries to the building. We just spent millions of dollars on Morgantown High School because when you drive by Morgantown High School 3, 4, 5 years ago, the doors would be propped open in the back corners. We ended that. We just got to the point where we had to take a stance. We're constantly evaluating, having professionals evaluate our schools. A lot of this can come back to, oh my goodness, Ethan, it's hard to be brief on something like school safety, but taking care of our kids. That's really a lot of the problems when it comes to school safety is if you have socially, physical, psychologically healthy kids, most of your problems disappear, but we can't rely on that, obviously. So we've done a lot, and we've had a lot of professional analysis done of our schools, and the things we see and the things we deal with. This is one of those things as a board member that you get behind the scenes and you work on it. There's a lot of stuff board members do behind the scenes that really need to be addressed and can't be addressed in public here in a situation like this. But you know, it's one of our greatest fears is it's something would happen to one of our kids. You know, every kid needs to go home safe at the end of the day, and we strive daily with our facilities and our personnel to do that. So thanks for that question, but we're doing what we can.
Very good. Thank you, Ron, for that answer. And Micah, I'm going to unmute you. You have the floor to address that. Go ahead.
Thank you. School safety is very important. And I think one of the best things that we can do is standardize access to all of the buildings throughout the county. That's just in short. I totally agree with Mr. Lytle when he talked about safety and looking at the students on a holistic level. Maslow's hierarchy of needs talks about at the very bottom level are very basic things: food, shelter, and safety. So if our children who are in our schools can have those basic needs met, then they can move up the levels, which are more higher level types of things. So the best thing we can do is make sure our students they feel safe and their basic needs are met. And by doing that, we can make sure that they're growing as a person. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Micah. Let me drop the mute there on you. So that we're going to conclude there with our question and answers for our Board of Education candidates. The fourth question that we had in our pre-prepared bank was one regarding school funding. Again, I think we've covered that in our excess levy discussion or question previously. We did have one public question that came in. We just don't have time to get it done. We really had tried to get this, to get everyone done by 9 p.m. And we do have Mr. Andriotto, who's been waiting patiently for an opportunity to address the viewers as well. The viewers who are watching on Facebook Live, I would like to remind you, Commissioner Ed Hawkins is still on the call with us. If you have a question that you would like to pose for Dr. Ed, as some of us call him in a friendly way. If you have a question for Dr. Ed, please submit that. You can do so in the comment section there on Facebook Live. You can text that to 304-276-5050. You can email it to info@moncountygop.org. So we're going to transition now. I'm going to have our Vice Chairman, Kyle McAvoy, come on, and he will pose some questions to Mr. Bob Andriotto, who is a Republican candidate running in the primary. And so we're going to bring him in, have some questions for him, and then unfortunately, the other Republican candidate, Mr. Kurowski, is not able to join us, and we apologize for him not being able to join. But Board of Education candidates, hang on. We may very likely have some questions come in for you. If we do, we'll come back to them, pose them quickly, and ask you for a 30-second response just to get them addressed. And if we have time here, I will go ahead with that last public question. But Kyle, go ahead, if you would, and ask Mr. Andriotto some questions, and I'll check the Facebook stream and see if we have any questions for Commissioner Hawkins or any more coming in for the Board of Education.
Sure, thank you. Mr. Andriotto, the first question I have is how many years experience do you have working as a surveyor? And more specifically, what is your professional background working as a surveyor both for private businesses in the local area and as your current role as the Monongalia County Surveyor?
Okay, I have 43 years of surveying experience, 41 years as a licensed professional surveyor in West Virginia, and 39 years as a licensed professional surveyor in Pennsylvania. As to the second part of your question, I've been a small business owner and an operator for 24 years in Monongalia County, 11 years as full-time surveying business, and 13 years as a part-time surveying business. Most of the part-time time, I was an employee for 30 years at Consolidation Coal Company / Consol Energy, part of it, in various outside, surface, underground office positions, all of which were specifically focused on surveying and engineering disciplines. Had a little more to add to that, but I'm going to try to skip over it a little bit since we're running low on time. But my professional background has been pretty diverse in nature. By working for a large corporation and also owning and operating a successful small business, I have experienced many different types of surveying and business problems along the way. So rather not get into all of those, but I have been your county surveyor for 5 years and 4 months. During that time, I developed a great working relationship with the county commission, the assessors, the clerks, and the planning commission offices, as well as many of my fellow surveyors throughout the county and the state. It is very important to maintain this professional communication for just the growing future of this county. And I have tried to do that many ways, and that's all I would have on that question.
All right, well, thank you for your answer there. I'm going to go ahead and move on to the second question I have for you, which I think many people may not be aware of the specific duties of the county surveyor and that role. Could you explain those duties and responsibilities and how you accomplish them during your term?
Yeah, I'll do the best I can. First and foremost, the county surveyor needs to be an advocate, unbiased professional surveyor to render advice to the county residents, the county businesses, the county offices, all the cities, towns, or communities within the boundaries of Monongalia County. To me, this means whether you're urban, rural, incorporated, unincorporated, large or small, you will have my full attention. And my use of my knowledge, my many years of experience as a professional surveyor, I'll try to answer any of your questions, hopefully resolve your surveying problem, or advise you the most logical steps to take regarding your surveying problem. In a sense, surveyors are great problem solvers. Now, some of the other duties, surveys required by a court order are often handled by the county surveyor. Some examples of those would be disputed boundaries going through the courts and partition surveys going through the courts. Also, the county surveyor usually has some input on corporations, district lines, county boundary revisions, correction surveys. Surveyors are precise mappers, and we are also called upon to help in that respect by the other county officials, whether it would be the 911 center, floodplain management. And then we also do specific surveys of county property ordered by the county commission. They're often handled by the county surveyor, not always, but often. And that's pretty much all I have on that.
Well, thank you for that. I think that was very informative for everyone. I mean, it's a sort of sometimes overlooked position, and we appreciate that and your time here today. I believe I'm going to switch back over to our chairman, Ethan. I believe he might have a question that has come in.
I do. Excuse me, I do, and thank you, Kyle, and thank you, Mr. Andriotto. As someone who's not worked in the surveying field or a math-related industry, it's nice to hear someone who's an engineer their thought process. You were straight to the line, straight to the point A to point B to point C. I appreciate that brevity and that time that you gave us there. We do have a few minutes left, and I just wanted, and to our Board of Education candidates, again, I'm going to pose it in a very shortened fashion. This is a public question that came in on our Facebook Live, and they took the time to watch and they took the time to post their question, and so we don't want to silence their voice. But it's 8:45 p.m., and so I'll ask the question quickly and just ask you to give us a 30-second to 1 minute response. The summary of the question is regarding gender-neutral bathrooms, your stance or what you believe the policy should be or how it could be revised on gender-neutral bathrooms and biological males and biological females being in the same private space and close quarters. So I believe we start with Lytle, then we go with Olinsky and then Walker. So Ron, we'll let you take this first, then it will be Micah and then Nancy. So Ron, you have the floor.
Thank you, Ethan. The challenge here is that our goal is as board members it's to represent each and every kid, no matter what their circumstance, no matter what their situation. My personal feeling on this is to keep our restrooms as they are. And if there's someone that's uncomfortable with the restrooms, we've got to make accommodations with gender neutral, or as you see them a lot of times, family bathrooms. Give them another option. I think when we start going down a slippery slope of taking gender out of schools, I mean, you end up with a 5-person gender male basketball team playing for the girls' championship in West Virginia. And the other end of that is if you don't do anything, you end up with a kid that's not comfortable in school. So we got to put our heads together and try to figure out what a good medium it is. And at this point, I mean, gender neutral bathrooms is an option for those people that aren't that identify different than what they were born biologically is probably about as good an answer at this point as we try to work through quite a difficult topic at this point.
Very good. And thank you, Ron. Next will be Mr. Michael Olinsky. Go ahead, Micah, you have the floor.
Thank you. Like Mr. Lytle said, we need to protect and represent all students in our county, and that should be our goal. So when we get in this issue of bathrooms, the biggest thing that I'm worried about is that people are washing their hands effectively when they're done using the bathroom. If we make gender neutral or family bathrooms available for those who want to use them, that's great. But I think that we should protect and represent all students and who they choose to be.
And thank you, Micah. And Nancy, you'll wrap up on this one. Go ahead.
I think this is a challenge for every school district in the United States of America as we try to address the self-identification of students in this world. And so in Monongalia County, what we have done in the past is our families who felt this was a concern for them have worked through this individually in the schools that they have been attending. And I have actually yet to receive any feedback from any parent saying that their child was put in an uncomfortable situation. As we look at where this will lead into the future, we will, needless to say, have to make a lot of physical accommodations and physical changes in our buildings. I see right now that we're going to be staying in our current configuration with working with every family individually that has a concern about this or something they feel needs to happen for their student to be who they are. So we are an inclusive community and we want to be sure that we're that in our schools also.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Nancy. We're going to start into our closing segment now. We're going to go back to Commissioner Ed Hawkins and give him the time. So ladies and gentlemen, again, it's 8:49 now. We plan to be done by 9, and we've got about 10 minutes. And so there are 5 of us left on the call. So it gives you about 2 minutes to do a closing, a wrap up, a final greeting, and a plug for your campaign. And so Ed, I will unmute you. Maybe. It won't let me. Ed, can you unmute? There we go.
I believe we got
There
it.
you. I got
Look,
it.
I'm
You have the
learning.
floor, Ed. Go ahead.
Thank you. This has been a wonderful 5 years for me. Some of you may know that I first ran for county commission in 2008 and I lost. And that was very disheartening. I had made a good enough showing, however, that people encouraged me to perhaps run for a state office. And I assured them that I had only one goal in mind, and that was to do the best that I could for this county. And I waited 6 years to be elected. It's quite fortunate to be blessed. I tell people that losing that election actually was a very good thing. Not a lesson to be learned, but what I discovered was that the job of county commissioner in Monongalia County is a full-time job. It's not something you can just approach and do something else and think you're going to go in for a couple meetings. Our meetings are extensive. This is the only day that we don't have meetings on Thursdays. Don't ask me why. Nobody has gnawed into our Thursdays yet. But everybody, when I looked back and said, I would have been a mediocre dentist and a mediocre county commissioner had I been elected in 2008. Getting this position as a person who had the ability to spend the time for Monongalia County has been a blessing. I hope to continue with this in the future. Too short? I can continue, Ethan, if you want me to.
No, I think that's all right. We very much appreciate you taking time out today to speak with us and speak with everyone that's watching on Facebook Live. I think we're Ron Lytle, would you like to go next? Just have to unmute yourself there. There you go.
I don't have a mute button. Okay, well, it's actually been great to be here to have a good open discussion about our views on what it is to be an effective board member in Monongalia County. The closing that I would say is I would ask people to vote for me. If I don't ask for your vote, I wouldn't expect you to vote for me. So I ask those citizens of Mon County to let us continue to excel. Our school system is doing great. It's been said many times tonight that Monongalia County schools are doing an awesome job of educating, awesome job of representing each kid, no matter what their socioeconomic background, their physical needs, what the things that they come from, that we take on every single kid and we represent them as if they're our own. So I've been dedicated to that for the last 7.5 years, or almost 8 years now. And I would like to continue to do that for another 4 years. I think it's been an honor to serve. It's been an honor to work with the administration. It's been an honor to help teachers accomplish their goals in every way that we can. And it's really been an honor to serve the kids in Monongalia County. And somebody asked me why do you want to serve on the Board of Education for Mon County? And I answered that on my Facebook is the graduation pictures that we get. I do a panoramic of each class and in the Coliseum or out at Blacksville's Statler Auditorium at Clay Battelle. And that's where the actual joy comes. And we've been working on that this year to put that joy in the seniors this year and try to do as much as we can to make every strive possible to give these kids the graduation that they deserve. And that's just one example of how this Board of Education and the administration that we work with strive to make sure that every single kid's represented and every single kid gets what they've worked for. And we're hoping to continue to represent the kids of Monongalia County and the teachers of Monongalia County and the service people of Monongalia County. It's been an honor for the last 8 years, and I'd be honored for the votes to continue through the next 4 years.
Very good. Thank you, Ron. We appreciate your time tonight. We're going to go to Nancy next, and then Micah, you'll be after Nancy.
I'd like to thank you all for listening this evening. And of course, I'd like to ask for you to support me in this election so I could continue my passionate work for public education. I'm a community volunteer. I work with the United Way. I've been president, vice president, leader on our Board of Education, as well as in different committees for the state in public education. I would like to think that you feel I'm a person that's going to listen to you, take your concerns seriously, and take them to the appropriate person or group, or tell you where to go so that you'll be able to hopefully resolve any concerns you have about your students in Monongalia County schools. We're always pushing forward. We're always striving to be the best. We're always wanting to be an extraordinary example of public education. And I'd like to continue working on that. We have a great board. We'd all like to continue to work together so that we can continue to move Monongalia County schools and Monongalia County students forward. Thank you so much.
Very good. Thank you, Nancy. We appreciate your time and appreciate you joining us tonight. Next up will be Micah for his final thoughts.
Okay, thank you, Ethan and Kyle and the Monongalia County Republican Executive Committee for hosting this virtual town hall. It's been really fun. I always like to talk about these issues. And to Mr. Lytle and Ms. Walker, I look forward to working with you in the future. I'd like to bring my experience as a teacher into the county school system. I'm a parent of 2 kids who are currently in the school system, so I think I bring a unique perspective to what's going on. And one thing we didn't get to talk about tonight was the creation of charter schools in our state. It's been a huge issue over the past 2 years. It's something that prompted me to run for the county school board. I reject the notion of taking public funds and giving them to private, sometimes for-profit businesses that can operate in our county basically with not a lot of accountability. And that's a big motivator for me. Our funds are limited and we need to make sure they stay in the public school system. So I hope that the current members of the school board and those running this year will also join me in rejecting that notion. So I ask for your vote. Allow me to represent you and listen to your concerns and represent all the people in Monongalia County. So thank you very much. You all have a great evening.
Very good. Thank you, Micah. As we wrap up there with the Board of Education, and Mr. Olinsky took an opportunity to speak an unpopular truth or an unpopular position to a group that may not be friendly. There are many of us that do support charter schools, and it's interesting when we can disagree civilly and not be acrimonious towards one another. And so, Micah, you come to the table and you bring a position that some that are watching may not espouse that position as well. Myself, I support charter schools and think that innovation in our public schools will be beneficial, but I can't speak for all. And so I salute you for being able to bring a position to the table that may not be well greeted, but we can stay civil without getting acrimonious towards one another.
Absolutely. And it's something that I think as what school board and the other nonpartisan races do is give the opportunity for people who have these different views a chance to share them with each other. And if there's one thing I know we need much more of in our society is civil discourse. I love discussing ideas. I look for people who have different views than me to talk with. So Ethan, if you ever want to grab a coffee and talk about charter schools, I'd be happy to do that. I really mean that, because I think the best thing we can do is for people like you who feel one way and people like myself who feel a different way to be able to talk about it and use facts and use data and agree, even if we disagree, to shake hands and still be civil towards one another. And that's something that I feel very strongly about, and something I try to bring to the table with everything I do.
I appreciate that, Micah. Thank you. Since you did raise the topic that's a substantive topic, I don't want to silence the voice of our other two candidates, Ron and Nancy. If you'd like to address the issue of charter schools to paint any contrast, just raise your hand. I'll unmute you and bring you in for a second or two to state a position. Okay, I'm coming in to Ron. Go ahead. Nope. Go ahead.
The current, am I on?
Yep.
The current legislation has been, that charters is in it's a Charleston thing. We are powerless as a Board of Education to deny charters. If they come to us and we deny them, we have to go through the process, and we can be overridden at the state level as long as they have a legitimate charter. The way the legislation was written and what we're talking about today is charter schools as a public school. It is not there is no nothing in that allows for a private for-profit school to come into Monongalia County. The one thing I will say is if somebody's taking up charter schools, they got to get a little bit more serious, because the conversations I've had was, boy, that's a lot of paperwork to start a charter school. And I thought to myself, if you talk about paperwork, if you're having trouble with the initial paperwork, you sure don't want to run a school system. So, the one issue on charters is everyone says about uncertified teachers will be working in the charter schools. And what I would say is, if there's a charter school and it's not built by our teaching professionals with them in mind, you won't get the professionals in the schools anyhow. So this will be something that comes out of teaching professionals if it ever gets there. And there are some good examples of charter schools in the state. And one of those, it's not called a charter school, is the Mountaineer Challenge Academy. It's a different way of educating people with a specific need. But the fear of a charter school coming in and taking all the good kids out of Monongalia County is just not the way the legislation is written, and we haven't seen anything to consider that, so it's not really up there. But I think we're really early in that, and it is not designed and is not complete at this point. And I don't even think the right players at the table. I think the teaching professionals need to be at that table for that design.
Thank you, Ron. Nancy, did you want to address that for a minute, or? Okay, 1 second, Nancy.
Hi, I'd just like to say I did not support the charter school legislation, and I know we're on the Republican platform, which was something they did support. We did try to speak to the legislators about this, because The data did not all support that charters were really the way to go to be more successful. And I felt that in our legislation, we had waiver capabilities and other capabilities with innovation zones and other types of educational programming to be able to do some of the things people said they wanted to do with charters. I would like for public education money to stay in public schools.
And thank you, Nancy. I'm going to go ahead and wrap up and let Mr. Bob Andriotto do his closing, and then we'll kind of do a good night, John Boy. I'll put everybody on gallery view, and we can wave and we'll sign off. So, Bob, I'm coming to you. Go ahead, Mr. Andriotto.
Okay, I just wanted to, this was very informative being with the Board of Education candidates, and I have a few things that I want to add and just let them know and let all the viewers know. The West Virginia Society of Professional Surveyors just recently, last year, when I was president for the state society, we promoted a foundation surveying scholarship through our society and the national professional surveyors. And I'm really proud, and I didn't get a chance to go over some of these accomplishments, and I would really appreciate if someone wanted to know. I've got 2 pages of accomplishments that I didn't get to go over, but this particular one is we have a Monongalia County resident student that was awarded the first foundation surveying scholarship in 2020. Just wanted everybody to know that, the Board of Education, and you know, in closing, I'll get back to the closing, but I just wanted everybody to know that. I want to personally thank you, Ethan, Kyle, Paula, and the rest of the County Republican Executive Committee for my invitation to participate in this town hall. You know, it's, as surveyors, it seemed like we were kind of left out of a lot of activities. I also want to thank everyone that I hope I answered some questions, tuned in at home, or on the delay. It's been informative to me to just listen to all the candidates on the ballot. And we really have made the best of this situation. And just aside from politics, I'm just going to set them aside for a moment. And on a lighter note about surveying history in this county. In this great county, we are bordered on the north by perhaps the most famous survey ever performed in the country by 2 of the greatest surveyors known, Charles Mason and Jeremiah Dixon. We're blessed to have their historic last marker on the famous Mason-Dixon line virtually right in our backyard, together with a newly set large commemorative marker on the 3rd and final crossing of Dunkirk Creek, crossed by Mason-Dixon in 1767. These historic markers are in our county's beautiful Mason-Dixon Historical Park. I urge all of you to take advantage of the many yearly events, the facilities, visit the historical surveying monuments, walk or bike or survey the many trails that they have to offer, and see for yourself what this park has to offer. And together share my passion about surveying in our historical county. So as your county surveyor, I assure you that the public welfare and the preservation of our surveying history in this county and state will always be one of my highest priorities. Again, my name's Bob Andriotto, your candidate for the Monongalia County Surveyor, and I truly appreciate everyone's valuable time and hope. And I hope I've answered many of your questions about serving our county and representing West Virginia as your Monongalia County Surveyor.
Very good. And thank you, Mr. Andriotto. I'm going to, we sort of started this on our one that we did Tuesday night. I'm just going to bring everybody to a gallery view, and that'll go out on our feed. Just a wave goodbye. I'm going to unmute everybody. We can all say goodbye, and thank you for joining, and our viewers, thanks for watching. We appreciate your time. Again, we'll be back next Tuesday. Again, is that May 4th, I believe? The 5th.
Good
Okay.
night.
Good night, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.
Later.
Thanks for watching.
Bye.
Hey.
Goodbye.
Thank you, everybody.
Do we, Torpedo?